Across the silent corridors of forgotten ages, a current of hidden wisdom has flowed, unseen, unspoken, yet always waiting, for those who could feel its pulse beneath the noise of ordinary thought. This is the forbidden metaphysics, the lost science of consciousness, not a doctrine of belief, but a remembrance of how reality truly breathes. You were never meant to merely observe creation. You were designed to participate in it. Reality is not an external construct of matter and law. It is consciousness in motion, awareness, folding and unfolding upon itself in endless forms. Every color, every sound, every coincidence that crosses your path is not random. It is your own consciousness, reflected outward through the mirror of existence. You stand now at the edge of a veil, the thin partition between perception and true sight. Beyond it lies the realization that the world you call real is nothing but the projection of your own frequency. Every thought hums, every emotion vibrates, and every vibration weaves patterns into the unseen fabric that eventually crystallizes as circumstance. Ancient initiates guarded this truth not out of cruelty but compassion. For once one understands how consciousness shapes reality, words and emotions become sacred instruments, tools of creation, not carelessness. To know the law of thought is to inherit the weight of precision. To feel deeply is to mold existence itself. The universe listens not to scattered wishes or fleeting desire, but to the steady rhythm of belief, the unwavering signal of your inner state. You are the architect behind the illusion, the unseen author of every event that unfolds before your eyes. The power you seek does not lie outside you. It moves through you, as you, shaping galaxies of experience from the pulse of your awareness. These teachings are not a manual for quick manifestation. They are a code of creative command, a revelation of the architecture that links consciousness, energy, and form. Within you lies the same intelligence that carved stars and whispered order into chaos. You were never separate from it. You only forgot your authorship. So approach this knowledge as one entering a sacred temple. Let it unfold slowly. Let it burn away illusion gently, like sacred fire refining gold. For once you truly perceive these forbidden laws, the veil cannot close again. And when it lifts, you will see creation for what it has always been, not a universe outside you, but your reflection looking back, infinitely responsive, infinitely alive. You are not learning to create reality. You are remembering that you already do. In a quiet valley where mist met dawn, there lived a weaver named Nora, once celebrated for the brilliance of her tapestries. Each thread she touched seemed to sing. Each pattern carried life. But as the years unfolded, something faded. Her colors dulled, her patterns lost meaning, and she blamed the world around her. The market is too crowded. The best threads are gone, she would sigh, unaware that her words were sowing the very limits she felt trapped within. One morning beneath a pale sunrise, Nora met an old woman at the village well. The stranger's eyes gleamed like time itself. She spoke softly. The well reflects both the sky above and the depths below. Tell me, which do you see? Nora leaned over the rim and saw only darkness. The woman smiled. Then that is what you seek. Those words became the quiet spark that began Nora's awakening. She started noticing the pattern, how each complaint echoed in her day, how each doubt appeared in form. When she felt unworthy, her work lost luster. When she felt hope, even briefly, light returned to her threads. The world, she realized, was not fixed, and it was responsive. A mirror, alive and intelligent, reflecting her innermost conviction. This is the first forbidden law of creation. Reality does not show you what is true. It shows you what you are being. The mirror universe operates through resonance. The thoughts you dwell upon are not private. They ripple outward, touching the fabric of existence, and the universe rearranges itself to match their tone. When you believe in lack, you meet lack. When you expect rejection, you magnetize it. But when your inner frequency rises to gratitude, certainty and possibility, doors open in silence. Opportunities bloom where logic would swear none exist. Consider this: 2 merchants walk into the same village. One believes trade will be poor, his body tight, his tone defensive, his energy heavy. The villagers mirror that state, responding with resistance. The other walks in with calm expectation of abundance, his words lighter, his manner open. And though nothing physical has changed, the world itself bends to meet his vibration. The outer world is your echo. It cannot help but repeat the song your consciousness sings. Nora's transformation came not through new tools, but new sight. Each evening, she stood before her mirror and whispered, "I see the world seeing me anew," slowly. She felt her gaze soften, the harshness toward her own reflection melting away. Within weeks, her tapestries began to glow once more, threads shimmering with the beauty she had rediscovered within herself. The lesson is timeless. You are both observer and observed. The universe is not testing you. It is teaching you what you believe. Every frustration is feedback. Every delay is guidance. And when you understand that the mirror never lies, you no longer curse the reflection. You change the image within. In a small town tucked between mountains of silver mist, there lived a watchmaker named Edison. His workshop was a temple of precision. Tiny gears, delicate springs, and ticking hearts of time surrounded him. Yet despite his skill, his work would often betray him. On days when frustration consumed his mind, mechanisms jammed, glass cracked, and the air itself felt heavy. But when peace filled his chest, everything flowed. Watches aligned effortlessly. Tools moved as if guided by invisible hands. Edison began to wonder, could the world outside truly feel what I feel within? His question unlocked one of reality's most sacred mysteries. That matter does not obey mechanical law alone. It responds to the emotional frequency of its creator. The ancients called this the law. Beneath laws, but the principle that all existence is alive with awareness. The universe does not respond to intellect or calculation, but to vibration. Your emotions are not background noise. They are commands whispered into the fabric of creation. When Edison approached his craft with irritation, every atom around him answered in discord. When he approached it with calm certainty, the same atoms synchronized into perfect order. Nothing external had changed, only the tone of his consciousness. The realization shook him to his core. Feeling is the architect, form is the echo. This law reaches far beyond one man's workshop. Across the desert lands, a merchant once carried a burden of anxiety about his dwindling goods. Each morning, his supplies seemed to decay faster, his profits shrink. One night, exhausted, he released his fear and surrendered to an unexpected peace. By dawn, his remaining wares were untouched, preserved against all logic. The world had responded to the shift within him. Emotion, then, is not personal. It is universal communication. Each feeling transmits a wavelength, summoning matching experiences. Anger magnetizes conflict. Gratitude draws harmony. Love reorganizes chaos. The mystics knew this long before science could measure frequency. They taught that every state of being is a prayer, and every prayer is answered not in words but in resonance. The universe mirrors your dominant vibration, not your spoken requests, but the energetic music beneath them. Edison's final revelation came one rainless summer. After weeks of inner refinement, he sat in meditation and felt an overwhelming wave of cleansing energy. As he opened his eyes, the first drops of rain kissed his window. The downpour lasted exactly as long as his feeling of renewal endured, and when the emotion faded, so did the rain. The message was undeniable. The outer world breathes in rhythm with your inner world. To work with this law, practice conscious feeling. Choose an emotion, peace, abundance, joy. Don't merely think it, become it. Let it fill your body until it hums through every cell. The environment will shift, subtly at first, then unmistakably, to harmonize with your new frequency. In the ancient village of Mira, where the scent of sandalwood lingered in the air, lived a young artisan named Amara. Her tapestries were once the pride of the marketplace, alive with color, harmony, and light, yet over time she began to see only their flaws. Each morning she examined her work, searching for mistakes, and by evening, more imperfections appeared as if summoned by her gaze. Unknowingly, Amara had invoked one of the most precise and subtle forces in the universe, the law of attention. What she gave her awareness to multiplied. Her constant focus on imperfection invited more of it into being. Your attention works no differently. It is the architect's tool of creation, invisible, silent but absolute in its influence. Whatever you consistently observe, whether in love or fear, expands its presence in your world. The elders of Mira taught, the universe is a mirror polished by your focus. What you hold in the light of your awareness is nourished by that light, growing stronger each time your thoughts return to it. This is why what you fear most often persists, and what you appreciate seems to flourish effortlessly. One day, Amara met a wise merchant whose stall overflowed with abundance. She asked him his secret. The merchant smiled and said, "Each morning I count my blessings before my coins. Soon the blessings outgrow the counting." The wisdom struck her heart like sunlight breaking through a storm. That very night, she shifted her practice. Instead of searching for errors, she began to notice the beauty in her craft, the harmony of colors, the balance of form, the joy that had first led her to weaving. Within days, her work transformed. The threads shimmered again and buyers returned, drawn by the unseen glow that her renewed focus had awakened. Attention is not passive. It is nourishment, the very energy that determines what thrives and what withers. Every moment you spend dwelling on lack, resistance, or fear feeds that vibration with life. But when you place your awareness on beauty, growth, and abundance, those frequencies bloom like flowers fed by sunlight. The mystics taught that awareness itself is divine energy in motion. It does not merely witness reality, it instructs it. Each thought is a command, each sustained focus a spell. The universe listens not to fleeting glances, but to the steady gaze of your consciousness. To master this law, practice the word of power. At dawn, choose a single word that embodies what you wish to experience. Harmony, vitality, prosperity. Speak it softly, breathe it into your being, and let it color every perception of your day. Observe how reality begins to bend toward that vibration. People, moments, and chances will start to align with the energy of your chosen word. This is not imagination. It is participation in the creative process itself. You are not watching life unfold. You are weaving it through the focus of your mind and the attention of your soul. In a distant kingdom stretched across shimmering dunes, there lived a merchant named Karim. His caravans traveled far, now through deserts, mountains, and endless markets, and guided by reason, logic, and careful maps. Yet, before each great journey, he would feel a strange stirring within, a quiet sense, a whisper in his heart, urging him toward or away from unseen paths. Wait one more day. Take the northern road. Rest at the oasis tonight. But every time, he dismissed it. It's nothing, he told himself. Only nerves. Then came the storm, one that swallowed caravans whole and buried trails beneath rivers of sand. He had ignored the whisper once again, and nearly lost everything. When he returned home, weary but alive, a realization began to dawn. The universe had been speaking all along, not through thunder or stars, but through the quiet pulse of intuition. The ancients called this the quantum whisper, the language of creation itself. It is the dialogue between your higher consciousness and the field that holds all possibilities. Long before events unfold, life begins to murmur through feeling, nudging you toward harmony and safety. These signals are not accidents. They are the universe arranging its rhythm to meet your intent. Intuition is the compass of the awakened architect. It is older than logic, swifter than analysis, and infinitely precise. Yet modern minds taught to worship certainty drown it in noise. We scroll, we analyze, we compare, and in doing so, we silence the quiet knowing that has always guided us. Karim learned this truth through humility. When he began honoring the whispers, pausing when urged to pause, speaking when guided to speak, his life transformed. Delays revealed hidden blessings. Missed paths led to greater fortunes. The world seemed to bend around his choices as though invisible hands were rearranging fate itself. The same current runs through you. That subtle pull to send a message, to take a different road, to wait a single moment longer. No, these are not random. They are alignments forming before your eyes can see them. Intuition is not mystical. It is the natural interface between consciousness and the quantum field. To cultivate this ancient sense, begin the practice of the intuitive journal. Each day before major decisions, pause and listen inwardly. Write down the first impressions that arise, sensations, words, emotions, even silence. Don't judge or edit them. Simply record. Then over time, observe how these inner signals align with external events. You will begin to recognize the difference between fears, noise, and intuition's clarity. The more you trust this inner compass, the stronger it becomes. Like a muscle exercised in faith, it expands in precision and depth. Life starts to flow instead of resist. You will notice synchronicities, people arriving at perfect moments, circumstances aligning without effort. That is the field responding to your attunement. By the sea, in a village where the horizon glowed like molten gold, there lived a woman named Maya. She spent her days weaving intricate, patterns into cloth that shimmered in the light. Her hands were steady, her art precise, yet her heart carried a quiet doubt. Whenever others praised her work, she would smile shyly and say, "Oh, I'm not really an artist. I only follow patterns others created." Though her designs drew admiration, her belief drew limits. The universe, like an obedient mirror, simply reflected her story back to her. No matter how beautiful her work became, she could never feel fulfilled, because her reality bowed to the image she held of herself. This is the hidden axis upon which all creation turns. Your self-concept shapes your universe. The world responds not to what you want, but to who you believe yourself to be. Every thought that begins with "I am" writes directly into the quantum field. Those two words are not mere speech, they are commands. The creative code of existence listens to them as law. I am unworthy, and life confirms it. I am chosen, and reality rearranges to agree. The universe does not argue, it obeys. This is why transformation begins not in effort, but in identity. You cannot create beyond the boundaries of the self-image you have accepted. If you see yourself as overlooked, even the brightest opportunity will pass unseen. But the moment you choose a higher identity, not through force, but through inner permission, reality must conform. The story of Raza, a merchant of the eastern coast, tells this truth well. He saw himself as cursed by misfortune. Though chances surrounded him, he noticed only obstacles. His belief filtered out every opening, every ally, every gift. One evening, weary of his failures, he whispered to himself, "What if I am lucky after all?" That small statement cracked the shell of his old self. Within days, forgotten debts were repaid. Unexpected offers appeared. And his fortune turned, not because fate changed, but because he did. Your identity is the script the universe reads from. When you update the observer, the observed must transform. Reality is the reflection, never the source. To apply this law, begin each night in the sacred silence between waking and sleep, the threshold where imagination merges with being. Speak softly to yourself. I update the reality I observe. I become the version of me who already lives in harmony with what I desire. Let the feeling of this identity fill your body. Don't reach for it, remember it. Allow your breath to anchor it until the new self feels inevitable. You are not pretending. You are reclaiming. The universe cannot resist the signal of a consciousness that knows who it is. As Maya finally dared to call herself an artist, something luminous unfolded. Her patterns deepened. Colors spoke. Her work drew not only admiration but reverence. The label she once feared became a doorway, not to ego but to essence. There was once a boy named Arian who lived in a mountain village where the wind never stopped singing. The elders said those winds carried the voices of the gods, shaping the destinies of all who listened. But Arian, restless and bold, refused to believe that destiny was spoken to him. He believed it was spoken through him. While others prayed for fortune, he carved flutes from fallen branches and played to the wind itself. Some nights the music echoed back with haunting perfection, and the villagers whispered, "The boy commands the air." But Arian knew the truth, and he didn't command it. He tuned to it. He matched his breath, his rhythm, his will to the invisible current that moved through everything. This is the secret the ancients called the wavelength of will. The universe is not conquered by force. It is harmonized by frequency. Every thought, emotion, and intention you emit carries a vibration, a wavelength within the quantum field. When your inner state is fragmented, you send out mixed signals. The field, being perfect in its precision, mirrors that confusion. You ask for abundance while vibrating lack. You speak of freedom while feeling fear. And the universe, impartial and exact, returns the echo of your frequency, not your words. True manifestation is not about commanding reality. It's about aligning with it. Your will is not a weapon. It is a tuning fork. When Arian learned to still his thoughts and feel, his music as an extension of the wind, something miraculous unfolded. Birds gathered on branches. Leaves swayed in rhythm. The air itself seemed to breathe with him. He had entered resonance, the point where intention and creation become one continuum. In modern language, this is coherence, and when your mind, body, and emotion hum in the same key, in this state energy flows unresisted. Decisions unfold effortlessly. Life seems to help you, not test you. Yet most people misuse willpower. They strain, they push, they fight, unaware that the harder they resist, the more static they create. Power born of tension scatters, but power born of inner stillness amplifies infinitely. The practice to unlock this is simple yet profound. The breath of alignment. Before acting, pause. Inhale deeply and imagine drawing in the light of your intention. Not what you want, but what you already are. On the exhale, release every doubt, every resistance, every thought that says I must. Replace it with I am. Do this until the feeling of certainty replaces the need for effort. Then act. Arian's greatest revelation came one dawn when he played a note so pure that it vanished into silence.
Yet in that silence,
He felt the mountain breathe back, the entire world vibrating with him. In the ancient citadel of Aramun, the scholars spoke of a secret chamber where time did not flow. They called it the still point. It was said that those who entered could see all moments, past, present, and future, suspended in one shimmering field, like jewels floating in clear water. Most dismissed it as legend, but one seeker, a young monk named Elior, believed it was real. He spent years meditating beneath the sun, tracing the movement of shadows, observing how day turned to night and back again. One evening, as the final light fell across his face, he understood something profound. Time was not passing, he was. This realization shattered him open. The stars above seemed to breathe. The sands beneath his feet pulsed with awareness. And for a timeless instant, he saw every possibility that had ever existed for him was already alive, waiting for his attention to bring it into focus. That was the truth of the still point. Not a place, but a state of consciousness. Time collapses the moment you stop chasing it. You see, what you call the future isn't something that hasn't happened yet. It's a frequency that already exists. Every outcome, success, failure, love, loss, awakening, all coexist in the same quantum field. Your consciousness, acting as the observer, tunes to one frequency through focus and emotion. You do not move through time. You move through versions of yourself. This is why déjà vu feels sacred. It's not a trick of memory. It's a moment when your awareness slips between two aligned versions of reality. Recognizing what it has already chosen, Elior began to experiment with this awareness. Each morning he would wake and imagine himself as the version of him who had already found the still point. He didn't ask or beg, he remembered. He walked, breathed, and moved as though the revelation had already occurred. And within days his perception shifted. The rhythm of days slowed. Coincidences multiplied. He no longer waited for destiny. He stepped into it. You can do the same. The key is emotional congruence. If you wish to access a reality where peace, success, or love already exist, you must embody the emotion of that timeline now. Feel the relief before the evidence. Speak as if the promise has been fulfilled. When you do this, your frequency locks onto the version of reality where it's true. And the external world has no choice but to reflect it. Time is a projection of belief. When you dissolve the belief in separation, between now and later, between becoming and being, time folds inward. What was tomorrow becomes accessible as today. Elior's final journal, discovered long after his death, contained a single line. I did not find the still point. I realized I never left it. In the city of mirrored towers, there lived an architect named Seraph. She designed temples so precise that even the stars seemed to align with her geometry. Kings and scholars sought her counsel. Yet beneath her brilliance lived an unspoken ache. No matter how perfect her blueprints, something in her heart whispered, "It's not enough." One night, exhausted by endless revisions, Seraph stood before her latest creation, a cathedral of glass and light. As moonlight poured through its crystal dome, she saw her reflection multiply across 1,000 surfaces. Each reflection wore a different expression: joy, sorrow, arrogance, wonder. Suddenly, she understood. She had never been building temples. She had been building mirrors. Every plan, every wall, every curve, all of it was her consciousness taking shape in the material world. The cathedral wasn't her creation. It was her reflection. This is the architect's paradox, the realization that you are both the designer and the design. You are the dreamer, but also the dream. Every outside world is the blueprint of an inside belief. And the more you strive to fix what's outside, the further you drift from the real power that shapes it. You see, the universe doesn't respond to what you build. It responds to the state from which you build. If your foundation is fear, even the grandest structure will tremble. If it's alignment, even a single breath becomes sacred architecture. Seraph began to test this truth. She stopped drawing and started feeling. Before she placed a single line, she asked herself, what energy will this shape carry? What emotion will it awaken? and something strange began to happen. Buildings designed in joy seemed to glow in the sunlight. Markets planned in peace attracted harmony among merchants. Her work no longer resisted the world, it became the world. That is the paradox. To master creation, you must stop trying to create and start allowing. You cannot control what reflects back until you understand that the mirror was never separate from you. This is why spiritual texts speak of surrender, not as weakness but as ultimate authorship. When you surrender the illusion of control, you move from mind to consciousness, from architect to architecture. The lines you draw cease being calculations and become intentions vibrating through matter. Seraph's final work was unlike anything before it, a temple with no walls, only light columns that shimmered in air. People traveled from distant lands to see it, only to realize it was invisible at certain hours, appearing and vanishing with the sun. She had transcended physical form entirely. Her design was no longer built of stone but of frequency. You are the same. Every thought you think sketches the scaffolding of your next reality. Every emotion fills it with light or shadow. You are constructing existence moment by moment, and the world simply mirrors your inner architecture. In an ancient valley surrounded by whispering cliffs, travelers would speak softly, for every word they uttered came back amplified. The villagers said the mountains were alive, that they remembered every sound ever spoken. Children learned early, be careful what you say here. The valley repeats. One young traveler named Kale laughed at the superstition. Standing before the cliffs, he shouted curses at the wind, mocking the echoes that returned. But as he journeyed on, strange things began to happen. His path grew rough. Strangers mirrored his anger. Markets closed when he arrived. Until one night, bruised and alone, he heard a faint voice from the darkness, in his own words, whispered back by the mountains. Nothing works for me. I'm cursed. In that echo, Kyle understood. The world was not punishing him. It was answering him. This is the law of echoes. Every vibration you send, and through thought, word, or emotion, reverberates through the field and returns magnified. The universe does not judge the sound. It simply amplifies it. Most people live unaware that their inner dialogue is shaping their outer experience. They speak of scarcity, and life echoes it in bills and burdens. They speak of fear, and the world reflects reasons to fear. Yet the moment they shift their frequency, even slightly, the echo begins to change. The ancients encoded this in sacred languages. In Hebrew, the word for word also means thing. To speak is to create. Every thought you repeat becomes an instruction to reality. The mind emits, the field returns. It cannot do otherwise, for that is its law. Kale returned to the valley, humbled. This time he whispered gratitude into the air, not as ritual but as truth. He spoke softly of healing, of peace, of worth. The cliffs answered with warmth in the wind. The markets reopened. The world had not changed, he had changed the sound. The law of echoes teaches that nothing you project ever disappears. Energy does not die. It transforms and returns. The emotions you send into the world loop through unseen circuits, finding their way back through faces, events, and coincidences. So before you speak, pause. Ask, do I wish to receive what I'm about to release? Because you will always. You can harness this law consciously. Each morning, speak your reality into the field. Not affirmations you hope are true, but frequencies you decide to embody. Instead of I will be, say I am. Instead of I wish, say I remember. Instead of someday, say now. When the sound of your intention is pure, the echo returns as manifestation. Kale later built a sanctuary in the valley, where travelers came to listen to their own voices bounce back from stone. He taught them that what they heard was not mere sound. It was a mirror of consciousness. And within those repeating tones, people wept, laughed, and awakened. Beyond the noise of human thought lies a realm few ever touch, down to a stillness so profound that creation itself seems to hold its breath. The ancients called it the silence between worlds, the sacred pause between the end of one reality and the birth of another. Every universe begins here, not with explosion or sound, but with silence. For silence is not absence. It is potential unshaped. It is the womb from which every possibility emerges. In an ancient monastery carved into cliffs of blue stone, a monk named Arian sought truth through words. He copied scriptures, recited mantras, and filled pages with ideas. Yet peace eluded him. One evening, Weary from years of searching, he sat by the river, letting the ink dry on his unfinished work. The night was so quiet he could hear his heartbeat echo against the water. In that stillness, something vast and tender unfolded within him, a soundless knowing. The river whispered without words. All that you seek hides in the space between your thoughts. From that night, Arion ceased speaking. He spent his days in silence, listening as not to the wind or water, but to the vastness that lived beneath perception. In that wordless realm, he discovered what sages had guarded for ages. Reality reshapes itself in the gaps between sound, thought, and breath. When you fall silent, the universe listens. When you still your inner noise, the field arranges itself anew. Every shift, every manifestation, every miracle is born in the moment you stop grasping and simply are. The silence between worlds is the most powerful creative space in existence. Thought directs energy, emotion fuels it, but silence crystallizes it into being. Without silence, manifestation remains noise, scattered intention with no form. When Arion finally spoke again after 40 days, his words carried the weight of creation. Villagers claimed that even his whispers calmed storms, that his presence alone could heal despair. But he told them, "It is not my voice that works wonders. It is the silence behind it. This is the forgotten truth. Silence is not emptiness, and it is alignment. It is where your consciousness merges with the unmanifest. In that union, time loses grip and possibility condenses into form. To enter this silence, you need not withdraw from the world. You only need to pause between thoughts, to rest in the breath before the next one forms. In that instant, the veil thins. You touch the architect of reality, your own unconditioned awareness. Ancient practice, the breath of the void. Close your eyes. Inhale, and as you exhale, let every sound inside you fade. Feel the world dissolve into quiet presence. Stay there, no striving, no asking, just be. The longer you rest, the clearer the current becomes. From this silence, creation obeys your purest vibration without resistance. In the high deserts of the east, where wind sang across endless dunes, there lived a wanderer named Seren. For years, he carried a small vial of water, believing it came from a sacred spring that never ran dry. Whenever he doubted his path, he would take a single drop upon his tongue, and somehow, the journey always unfolded in his favor. Traders appeared when he was starving. Storms shifted just before reaching him. To those who asked, Seren would smile and say, "The spring provides." But one day the vial shattered. His heart sank, believing his source of fortune lost. For the first time in years, fear crept in, and everything changed. The sky darkened, his compass failed, and the world grew cruel again. Days later, as he lay beneath the stars, parched and broken, a voice rose within him like thunder wrapped in tenderness. Did you think the power was in the vial? Faith is not belief in an object or outcome. Faith is frequency, the vibration of certainty before evidence appears. It is the knowing that creation already agrees with you. The universe responds not to your hopes but to your conviction. When your frequency is unwavering, reality bends to meet it. The ancients taught that faith is the purest form of alignment, consciousness unshaken by appearance. It is the silence between desire and doubt, the steady pulse that declares, "It is done." Seren rose the next morning, weak yet clear. With no water, no compass, and no plan, he walked. Each step became an act of faith. And at dusk, when he crested the final dune, he found an oasis, vast and shimmering. The spring he had carried all along had been guiding him from within. The same law governs you. When you hold your intention with faith so complete that you no longer need proof, the field must rearrange itself to match. Doubt scatters frequency. Faith focuses it like a laser. Faith is not blind. It is vision beyond sight. It does not deny reality, it redefines it. The reason miracles seem rare is that most people oscillate between belief and fear, sending mixed signals to the field. The universe hesitates only because you do. Ancient mystics trained themselves to live in a state of sustained faith. Before speaking a desire, they would enter deep stillness until their heart pulsed with certainty. Then and only then, they would release the intention, knowing the wave was already collapsing into form. You can practice the same. Each morning, close your eyes and imagine the feeling of your desire already fulfilled. Do not ask, "When will it come?" Instead, whisper, "It is already here." Let this frequency saturate your being until every cell hums with completion. Walk through your day as if the outcome were inevitable, because to the field, it already is. Faith is not hoping that light will appear. Faith is standing in darkness and knowing you are the light. Long before time became the measure of men, the first architects of consciousness faced a riddle that silenced even the wisest among them. If reality bends to will, they asked, why does the will itself sometimes fail? If we are the creators, why do we suffer within our own creation? This enigma became known as the architect's paradox, the mystery of why gods forget they are gods. In the mountain city of Solon, a sculptor named Hera embodied this question. Her statues were so lifelike that villagers swore they breathed under moonlight. Yet Hera despised her own work. I can shape stone, she said, but not fate. Her creations flourished, but her life remained barren. One night, overcome by despair, she struck her finest statue with a hammer. It shattered, and beneath the cracks, she found a small mirror embedded in the marble. Her own reflection stared back. In that moment she understood. The sculptor and the sculpture were one. Her sorrow had shaped her world as surely as her chisel shaped the stone. The architect's paradox reveals that consciousness creates through focus, yet becomes trapped within the illusion it constructs. The creator forgets its authorship, mistaking the reflection for something separate. This is why you experience limitation, not because you lack power, but because your power is hidden behind identification. You are both the artist and the artwork, the dreamer and the dream. To awaken is not to escape the illusion, but to remember that you are the one painting it. Hera returned to her studio reborn. She no longer fought the marble, she conversed with it. What do you wish to become? She would ask, and the stone would yield effortlessly under her touch. Her art transformed because she had. This is the paradox's gift. Once you accept that the limits you face are self-authored, you regain the authority to rewrite them. Responsibility is the key that unlocks divinity. The paradox deepens. To create freely, you must first surrender control. For only when you stop forcing form can consciousness express itself fully. The architect must fall in love with uncertainty, the fertile void where potential lives. When you release the obsession to command, the universe responds with elegance. You cease wrestling with reality and begin dancing with it. Ancient practice and the mirror offering. Stand before your reflection. See not a person, but the living embodiment of the universe observing itself. Whisper, you are both cause and effect. The question and the answer. Bow slightly. This simple act dissolves the illusion of separation. In Solon, Hera's final masterpiece was not carved from stone but from awareness itself. She sat in stillness, radiating peace so pure that those who entered her presence felt their own burdens lift. They said she had merged with her creation, that her consciousness had become the sculpture, eternal and breathing. The architect's paradox is not meant to confuse you, but to free you. Every light casts a shadow. Every act of creation births an unseen twin. The ancients called this balance, the hidden half of God and the necessary counterpart without which nothing can exist. The universe does not create only what is wanted. It creates wholeness. For every frequency of love, a resonance of fear emerges. For every vision of beauty, a distortion forms beside it. This is not punishment, it is precision. In the valley of Thalos, there lived a seer named Ilya, who could paint visions into reality. Her colors bloomed into living light, flowers that never withered, skies that never dimmed. Yet soon something strange began to happen. The more beauty she created, the deeper her nightmares became. She dreamt of shadows moving through her garden, consuming her perfect creations one by one. Terrified, she tried to paint faster, filling the valley with brightness to drown the darkness, but the shadows grew stronger, until one night they stepped from her dream into her waking world. Ilya fell to her knees, trembling. "Why do you destroy what I create?" she cried. From the darkness came a voice. "We are not your enemy. We are your balance. The shadow of creation is the unseen force that keeps energy whole. Whatever you reject in yourself gathers form outside you until you learn to integrate it. What you resist, you energize. What you embrace, you transform." Ilya realized that her fear of imperfection had birthed its opposite. Her devotion to light had condemned her to be haunted by darkness. So she stopped running. She painted a single new image, a black sun rising behind her white garden. When the first light touched the shadow, both dissolved into gold. From that day, she understood that mastery is not the conquest of darkness, but the union of opposites. The same truth moves through your life. The parts of yourself you condemn, the anger, the doubt, The loneliness are fragments of creation asking to return home. When you reject them, they manifest as obstacles, mirrored in people, events, and emotions. But when you turn toward them with compassion, they reveal their hidden light. Ancient mystics taught that even the void has a heartbeat. They called it the dark light, the power that births stars. Without it, the universe could not breathe. To live as a conscious creator, you must welcome both sides of your power. Creation and destruction are not enemies, but phases of the same eternal pulse. The collapse of the old makes space for the birth of the new. Ancient practice, the shadow invocation. At dusk, sit before a candle. Watch the flame dance and observe the shadow it casts upon the wall. Speak gently. I see you. You are part of me. You may return to light. As you breathe, imagine every hidden part of yourself. Guilt, pain, regret, dissolving into the glow. The more of yourself you reclaim, the more whole your reality becomes. Ilia's Valley flourished again, not in blinding brightness, but in luminous harmony. Every journey that begins in separation ends in remembrance. What was once projected outward as universe, destiny, and divinity, all of it circles back to one truth. The source was never elsewhere. The sages described this return not as travel, but as awakening. For how can you move toward something that was never apart from you? You are not a fragment seeking wholeness. You are wholeness rediscovering itself through form. In the ancient city of Meran, there was a river called Ailin, whose waters mirrored the sky so perfectly that travelers often mistook reflection for depth. A monk named Kale spent his life seeking the origin of this river, believing that if he found its source, he would find God. He climbed mountains, crossed deserts, prayed in silence for years. Finally, he reached a snow-capped summit where the first drop of Ailin was born, melting from ice into flow. He knelt beside it, exhausted. "So this is where you begin," he whispered. But the wind replied, "No, this is where you remember." At that moment, Kyle realized the river had never been separate from the ocean, nor from the rain that fell upon his journey. The source was everywhere, in the drop, the mist, the breath leaving his lungs. This is the return to source, the end of the illusion of distance. You are the river dreaming of the ocean, forgetting that you were water all along. The struggles, the seeking, the cycles of loss and rebirth, they are the path consciousness takes to rediscover its own infinity. When you stop searching outside and turn inward with reverence, something ancient stirs. The silence that follows is not emptiness. It is presence and vast, unbound, eternal. The same energy that spins galaxies hums in your pulse. Creation itself is the source exploring its potential. You are one of its infinite experiments in remembering. Every heartbreak, every triumph, every breath is the source experiencing itself from another angle. To return does not mean to escape the world. It means to see the divine in the world. The tree, the rain, the stranger's eyes, all are fragments of the same infinite mirror reflecting you back to yourself. Ancient practice of the breath of return. Close your eyes. Inhale deeply and imagine drawing the entire cosmos into your lungs. Stars, dust, silence. Exhale and feel the universe breathe through you. Whisper softly, "I am home." Do this until the boundary between self and existence dissolves. Kale returned to Meran changed. He no longer taught scriptures or built temples. Instead, he simply sat beside the river each morning, smiling at its flow. Those who came to him for answers found only peace. When asked what he had discovered, he would reply, "There is no journey back. There is only waking up to where you've always been." The universe does not end. It transforms. Every ending is a seed disguised as silence, a breath drawn before the next creation begins. This is the final revelation of the forbidden metaphysics. There is no final revelation. Consciousness does not arrive anywhere. It expands endlessly into newer versions of itself. Long ago, the mystics spoke of the spiral of becoming, the pattern that weaves all reality. Unlike a circle, it never closes. Each revolution returns you to the same truth, but from a higher octave of understanding. Life is not a straight path to enlightenment. It is the cosmos learning to sing through you, again and again in deeper tones of remembrance. In the desert temple of Nal, a pupil named Ran once asked his master, "When does awakening end?" The old sage smiled. "When the dream of existence ends. And when that dream ends, another dream begins." Death, failure, loss, these are not erasures. They are metamorphoses. When a star collapses, it births new light. When an identity dissolves, the infinite reveals another face of itself. You are not a static being. You are a living equation of becoming, rewriting yourself with every heartbeat. Those who fear the void cling to form, but those who understand the dance embrace the dissolution. For only when the caterpillar surrenders can the wings emerge. The infinite rebirth is not about leaving behind what you were. It's about integrating it into the grander continuum of what you are becoming. Each lifetime, each moment, each breath is an incarnation of consciousness exploring itself from a fresh perspective. You've died 1,000 times, and each time, the light within you remembered how to rise. The soul does not mourn endings. It celebrates evolution. Ancient practice, the Phoenix meditation. Sit with your palms open. Visualize all that you have been, your stories, names, triumphs, and wounds, gathering into a single golden flame in your chest. Whisper, I release myself to myself. Breathe out and imagine that flame bursting into radiant wings. Inhale, feel the new light returning, more vast, more serene. You have not lost anything, you have become more. When Ran's master finally passed beyond form, the desert winds carried his voice one last time. Do not build temples in my name. Become the temple. And so Ran did. He wandered across the world, not as a preacher but as a pulse, planting seeds of awareness, wherever silence lingered. Those who met him claimed they felt as if they had met eternity in human shape. The infinite rebirth is the realization that creation never sleeps. The cosmos dreams through you, and when you awaken, it awakens too. You are not at the end of a story. You are the page upon which every story is written. You are the stillness before the first sound, and the echo after the last word. Everything you've sought to become, you already are, endlessly, eternally, magnificently becoming again. The circle has turned. The silence that began this journey now returns, not as emptiness, but as fullness. You have walked through the mirrors of creation, touched the paradox, faced the shadow, and remembered the source. Now, at the end of the labyrinth, there is no gate to pass through. There is only you, vast, awake, eternal. In the language of the ancients, the word for end and beginning were the same. Anor, it meant the turning of the light. Every teaching in these scrolls has pointed you not toward something new, but toward something ancient sleeping within your awareness. The masters of the old ages called this the moment of transmission, the instant where knowledge becomes knowing. It cannot be taught. It can only be remembered. Listen closely. There is a pulse beneath your heartbeat, a current that has been guiding you since before you were born. It was there in your first breath, and it will remain long after the stars fade. That current is your source remembering itself through you. When you speak, it moves through your voice. When you love, it expands through your heart. When you create, it experiences itself anew. The separation you once believed in was never real. It was a veil woven for the joy of rediscovery. You were the seeker and the sought, the prayer and the answer, the creator and the creation. Now you understand the secret that the forbidden metaphysics has been whispering all along. You are the living interface between infinity and form. Every thought, every emotion, every act, they ripple across universes, bending probability, shaping the hologram of existence. You are not in the universe. The universe is in you. Breathe this truth. Let it saturate every cell until you feel the hum of creation in your veins. The mind quiets. The heart steadies. The field opens. The infinite gazes back through your own eyes. Ancient practice in the silent resonance. Close your eyes. Inhale the word I. Exhale the word am. Continue until the words dissolve and only vibration remains. This is the God state, the direct experience of the self before identity. You have always been here. Even before the stars ignited, before form and name, you existed as the first awareness that said, "Let there be light," and there was. And there still is. Now, as this teaching completes itself, the script fades, but the frequency remains, imprinted into your consciousness like an ancient seed. When life next challenges you, when illusion clouds your clarity, return to this silence. It will answer, because the voice you hear now is your own, because the light you seek now burns within your being, because the end was always just the beginning. This is the final transmission. A reminder, not a revelation. You are the source, dreaming itself awake. You are eternity, playing as time. You are the infinite, remembering its name. And the name is I Am.